Welcome to Don't Follow the Shepherd. This is a new show inspired my eclectic career and unconventional journey. Um, I'm fascinated by the lived experience of others, however, and so those people have taken kind of unexpected vocational detours. I'm interested in their lived experience, and I want to share that with people. Um, and their personal and professional growth is intertwined, and so this is what this podcast is really about. There are no shoulds in our vocabulary, and that's something that I learned way too late in life. But I'm excited to have Anna here, who is, well, first of all, she hails from Hawaii, which who doesn't love Hawaii? Um, she's a private relationship coach, country singer, songwriter, part-time model, and corporate flight attendant. And additionally, she's the mother of three and soon to be podcast host. And when you hear her speak, not only is she poised, she's got a great media presence, and I'm sure she's going to outshine me. So I'm going to say as little as possible. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Tell me a little bit about how you got into relationship coaching and working with your demographic of clients.
Okay, I love this question because I never dreamt as a child that I would grow up to be a motivational speaker or kind of like a micro influencer or like a dating coach for men. Never would have imagined that. But to make a long story short, I went through a really toxic, unhealthy marriage. And all the things I learned through that, the things I wished I would have seen, the red flags, the signs of alcoholism and narcissism and all that stuff. I wish I would have known all those things. So after I went through my own coaching, I hired a coach, went through therapy, recovery programs. I took everything that I learned, all the nuggets, all the successes, and I thought, I need to share this with other people. So I started coaching, and I have on the Enneagram, I'm the eight, which is the challenger and the protector. So I have the gift of basically helping others, challenging others to really level up their lives. And so I was like, I need to share this with other people. So I started out intending to coach women, but the majority of my following are men. So I kind of was like, I need to leverage this. And so I just started speaking about healthy relationships, healing from toxic relationships, the red flags, of a low value woman, all this kind of stuff that really struck a nerve with men. And so I was like, okay, this is my niche and it's working.
And what is today a low value or high value person, man or woman? I think you hear the word thrown around a lot on social media and other outlets. How would you roughly define these terms, the
Roughly. So,
archetypes?
right, a high value woman, kind of similar to a high value man, there's a lot of similarities, but for a woman, she's really most likely she's gone through a lot of pain and heartache and she's done the work. So she's leveled up. She's okay being on her own. She doesn't play games. She's motivated, ambitious. She takes care of herself. She's just really gotten to this place in life where she doesn't need a relationship to be happy. She has her own really full life. And it's kind of like I like to talk to my clients or my followers in sports terms. Like we have the bench warmers, right, which are the low value women, and everybody has value, let's be clear. Everybody has value, but not everybody lives like they have value, right? So the bench warmers are the ones who don't believe in themselves. They don't live like they have value. They don't value their lives, their bodies, their minds, their all the things. And then you have the single A, double A, triple A, and then you have the first round draft pick, which is like the cream of the crop. These are the athletes who have done the work and who have worked their butts off, right? To get to where they are. And so, high value woman, she's basically a first round draft pick. She's done the work. She, on a daily basis, consistently improves her life spiritually, physically, financially, mentally, emotionally, relationally, professionally. So, it's a holistic, healing, high value woman. And then in return, I would say a high value man is pretty similar, right? And then the low value, I just did a post recently about like, I think it's like the 12 red flags of a low value woman. She doesn't communicate. She doesn't receive feedback. She doesn't take care of her body. She can't not be in a relationship. Her identity is in a relationship outside of when she just crumbles. She complains. She gossips. She criticizes. She is not work. She doesn't have a purpose. She's just kind of drifting through life, waiting for someone to give her one, right? And so basically, you would like she's drama, chaos, yard sale. I used to be a yard sale. You know, you like drive by someone who's having a yard sale, just everything all over the place, and you're like, that was me. So kind of that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. The term narcissist is thrown around all the time, but there are a lot of character traits, there are a lot of personality traits of these people who are not particularly self-aware, who are not good at communicating and they haven't done the work. And I don't want to label them necessarily narcissists in a pathological sense. But what you describe is kind of these low value people who really lack empathy, and are struggling, and their struggle is impacting other people, often in a negative way. And so, uh, I love how you phrase it. The people who have really done the work fall into that category of higher value. Now, with working with men, you have a lot of ambitious men. Sometimes, the most ambitious people are the least likely to be introspective, right? So, how do you kind of engage with them if they're willing to work with you? Because sometimes they think they know everything, right?
Well, I don't agree with that 100%. I haven't seen that all too often ambitious people are less self-aware. I think, I mean, me personally, I'm an extremely ambitious person, like one of the most I know, but I'm also one of the most self-aware people I know because
Okay.
I've done the work, because I've shifted my mindset and I've learned all about the subconscious mind. But I mean, I could see in a way, like ambitious people, I think can tend to be, I think, lean more towards the creative aspect, like the visionaries, right?
Okay.
Like the integrators who get the vision done, and then there's the visionaries who have that vision. And I can see if you're more of a creative brain, like for me, have a creative brain. I don't like doing all the back office stuff. That's what I just posted recently. I'm like, I need a new virtual assistant because I don't want to do this stuff. So, yeah, but does that answer your question?
No, 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 that's great. I mean, I like your perspective. Some people are timid to disagree with me, and I'm like, hey, I love that. That's what I want. That's what it's for. Um, uh, so the tool that you use, an anagram, right? Can you tell me?
Enneagram,
Oh, yeah, sorry. God.
Enneagram. Oh yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm probably not going to edit this, so I'm going to have to go with that blunder, right? So can you say it one more time and then tell me what
I'll
it
try.
is? Okay.
It's
Okay.
Enneagram, so Enneagram, and it's been
Okay.
around for hundreds, maybe even thousands of years. And
Okay.
it's a personality test based on your motives, so your core motives. So it's not so much on the outside what we're assessing, it's more like inner motives, your core desires, fears, longings, all the stuff that's like internal. And
Okay.
so a few years ago, someone introduced it to me. I kept hearing about the Enneagram. And I'm like, I got to look into this. So I took the test. It changed my life overnight because I have this very strong, opinionated kind of people used to call me bossy. I've refined that. I just feel like I have really good ideas, and I feel like everybody should come along because you're gonna have a lot of fun, right? And we're gonna get a lot of stuff done.
Mhm.
And so I took the test. I had my children take it. It changed our relationship overnight because I realized why we were butting heads because of our personalities. One of my children deals with anxiety. I don't deal with anxiety ever. I deal with anger. And so then I realized, okay, I have to come at her from a totally different perspective. So anybody who's like struggling with their personalities in the home, you can apply it though in all different areas of life. I would highly suggest. And I can send you the link to the Enneagram test that I use. It's free. But so I started coaching the Enneagram. I became certified in it and started coaching it because it's really people say, "Oh, I don't want to be labeled." Oh, I hate it when people say that because it's like I'm not trying to label you. I'm trying to set you free from this box, right? When you find out, when you can read yourself like in a paragraph, to me it's so eye-opening and refreshing because for a long time I felt like there was something wrong with me. Like, Anna, you're so impulsive. And yeah, I do need to work on stuff for sure, but you're so bossy, you're so controlling, you're so impulsive. No, I'm a leader. I just had to do some work. So I'm the leader type, like the Joan of Arc type, I guess. And once I saw that, okay, I do struggle with anger. Okay, I'm going to face that head on. I do struggle with being a little bit bossy. So I'm going to refine that. It totally set me free. And I want that for other people.
Yeah, you mentioned therapy. Um, the beauty of someone who's coaching, who's been through therapy and been coached, is that you have this perspective. Where, is unfortunately, there are some critics out there like they don't believe in therapy or they don't believe in coaching. They don't know the difference. But most people who have been through it, I think, understand the difference and the value that each offers. Can you speak to that a little bit for just clients in general or people in general?
So I love this because there is kind of a vast difference between therapy and coaching. Focuses really on the past. Can't kind of go backward. You kind of dig into wounds and stuff. And coaching is kind of the opposite. It's more creates a future for you. So we look at the goals that you want. Like, for example, my clients, they want to attract high quality women. I'm like, okay, that's a great goal. So what's keeping us back from that? Let's lay out our strengths and our weaknesses, the things that are keeping us stuck, and then we're going to create goals. And basically, I'm holding your hand. I'm like, okay, this is the goal, and I'm going to hold your hand, and we're going to walk in that direction. We're not going to go backward. We're not going to stay like digging through the dirt. That's not. It can be helpful, of course. I have a therapist, but I just love um I love forward motion. So, and then a side note for that, I realized too, I have a gift to see people. Like, cuz that's something my ex people, I don't feel like people really saw me and my unique personality. And now, so I really can see people and the gift of intuition and insight. So just by talking, listening to somebody for 5 minutes, they're saying one thing is wrong and they're dealing with this, and I can see something completely different. And then I name it, I call it, and then just like they're just like in awe, like, oh my gosh, I could see that happening. So that's why I feel like I'm called to this, is because I have the gift to really see people and see deeper, to see the root issue, not really like the surface issues.
Do you think that because this applies to me, if you're a child and you don't feel like you were seen and heard, and I don't know if this is what you mean, but if you're not seen and heard, you kind of develop this stronger intuition because you've got to read people who are not necessarily, I don't want to say not nurturing, but they may not see you for who you are, and so it helps strengthen that trait. Do you buy into that or not necessarily?
Um, so they don't see you for who you are. You're
Well,
right. Yeah. Yeah, I can see that for sure.
mhm.
Growing up, I grew up in a very conservative, non-denominational Christian home. And so I have been very judged by people who didn't really see me and my gifts and my plights, right? And so yeah, I could see how that would make sense. And so you grow up with this, I don't know, maybe you're trying to find approval in certain people and like win approval. And I did that for a long time until basically I had to talk with myself and I'm like, enough already. This is nonsense. And so now it's like I found such freedom and not trying to win approval and not feeling like, just a client I met with yesterday, we realized he's trying to make other people see all his best attributes. And I think that's what a lot of us do. And I'm like, enough already. You don't have to try. Just be you. Just show up as you are, and people will see your best attributes. Like it's
Yeah, I mean, one thing you said, if you don't mind me reading, this is a post that, and definitely people should check you out on LinkedIn. Three things that, well, let me back up. I said that most people benefit from female coaches. Uh, in many ways, if you're looking for a relationship with a high value woman, uh, talking to a high value woman as a coach is obviously an asset, right? And one thing that you posted on LinkedIn was because people had asked, how do I meet? You said some clients had asked, how do I meet someone like you, right? Or someone had said that, other people said that. And you said something really poignant. Three things that attract a woman like me: authenticity over ego. If you're trying to impress me, I'm already gone. I'm not attracted to masks. I'm drawn to men who face themselves. Two, emotional leadership. I don't want to teach you how to communicate or be a gentleman. I want to feel safe in your presence because you've done the work to lead with clarity and not confusion. And three, vision. If you don't know where you are going, don't expect me to follow. I want to build something with a man who has direction, conviction, and ambition. So
Hmm.
that's some powerful stuff. Um, wow.
I
Do you
said
want
all
to,
that.
with that?
I was like, wow, I said all that.
Yeah, I'm like, I read it. I jumped. I was like, whoo, that's powerful. That's potent. Do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yes, I love that. And you know what I noticed too that has to do with it is just my personality. I'm a very authentic person, right? Like what you see is what you get because I know that I have a lot of stuff to work on. I'm not trying to impress anybody, but I have, because of how I was raised in my faith in God, I have a very strong desire to share truth with people and to speak up. And I have a heart for the underdog and to speak for the people who have no voice, right? And so as I'm starting to build my brand or whatever you want to call it and build, speak to my niche, I'm realizing that to me, this is like brushing my teeth, right? But the feedback that I get is like, wow, like people really need to hear this. To me, it's so simple. Like, yeah, of course, I'm more impressed with humility than, or what did I say? Like, not ego, but the other thing, and leader
Authenticity.
and visionary.
Mm.
I found such value in those things only because the relationships I've had in the past, up until my most recent relationship, which was the best experience I've ever had in my life with another man. Before that, my relationships, they didn't value me because I didn't value myself. And I suffered. And they suffered too, the poor guys, because I was trying to get something that I could never get from them. And so I, because I had such a hard time not knowing really why I was doing what I was doing, why they were doing what they were doing, I went to Al Anon, which is a recovery program for family members of alcoholics. And I realized, okay, what I was dealing with in my marriage, and I was able to suddenly just disengage and stop trying to force something that was never going to happen. So then I realized, okay, these are my standards. And some guy wrote to me on LinkedIn or something. He goes, wow, you drive a really hard bargain with your standards. I'm like, you bet it. You bet so, because I'm not going to settle the next time around. And my last relationship was phenomenal. Like I was like, okay, men like that exist. I'm so happy that I finally got to the point where I realized I'm not settling, and we broke up because of geographical issues, but um yeah, so now I stand firm by really understanding and not compromising my values. Like I want somebody who's going to lead me and somebody who has vision, who's motivated, ambitious, and doesn't have to be wealthy, but a financial steward would be amazing because I'm not going to spend the rest of my life being broke like it was the first half, right? Because I married a guy who's in the army and who taught me that you just need to be content with what you have, and if you want more, you're selfish and you're greedy.
So, do you also find in helping men, like, so, for example, when you talk about a good partner, um, I think of someone who's supportive of what you're doing. I mean, it sounds kind of cliche, but there are many relationships where partners are threatened by each other's success or the success of one person. They are not necessarily supportive of, there's an imbalance. In other words, one person is very giving in terms of supporting them in a career, and the other person is all about their career and has less time. I mean, there's so many nuanced ways this happens, but can you speak to maybe that a little bit, those dynamics?
I love it. And I'm going to tell you right off the bat, that's a narcissistic relationship. Oh, and I wanted to comment earlier what you said about narcissism. So yeah, the term is thrown around a lot, but you know what? I tell people it's okay. It's an easy way. Like when people say, I have a cold, they don't say, hey, I have a stuffy nose, a headache, and I'm achy and I'm congested and my nose is running, right? They just say I have a cold. And the same thing with narcissism. A narcissistic personality style is somebody who has like at least seven of these traits, right? They don't have to be professionally diagnosed. And so those traits are lying, manipulative, suspicious, controlling, no empathy or lack of empathy. They don't take responsibility. And there's no emotional intelligence or connection. I mean, the list goes on. So it's an easy way just to say, hey, yeah, this is a narcissistic personality style, right? So if you're dealing with somebody who's threatened by your success, that is not healthy at all. And it sounds narcissistic to me because only narcissists, they want somebody beautiful and talented and multi-talented. I'm speaking from a guy's perspective, but
Mhm.
you can switch it. They want somebody like that that's going to make them look good, but then once they get them, they don't want to compete with you. So they're going to try and put out your fire, and they're not going to support you or champion you or, you know, you know, support you at all. They're not going to. And so if somebody in your life is like threatened by your success, that's definitely a red flag.
100%. This is the conundrum of explaining to people who are unfamiliar and perhaps the toxic relationships that they may already be in is that, the superficial charm of the sociopath or the narcissist. And when I say that, I'm
Mhm.
talking about someone high in these traits, not someone who meets the DSM
Mhm.
clinical definition of, 7 of 9 criteria, whatever. But someone who is, in a broad sense, I love how you stated it, kind of it's all encompassing in some way, but we don't break it down. But, anyways, the person who is very charming is also likely to be someone who could be very threatened by you. And so
Mhm.
that things change dramatically after the honeymoon season, or what do we call it? Uh, when people are kind of really showing adoration, etc. I
The
forget
honeymoon phase, yeah. Yeah.
you know what I mean. And so it's very hard because the most charming people can often be the most toxic. But, there are people who are productive narcissists, and narcissism can be healthy to some degree, but it's so nuanced that it is strange in the Western world. We use this term
Mhm.
narcissism, and it's a little more complicated than meets the eye. So I like how you describe using narcissistic personality style, um,
Mhm.
as opposed to, a full-blown disorder, because some of the people who are the most uh, challenged or hindered,
Mhm.
or the most pathologic, can't even be in a relationship for very long because they are already so toxic. So it just depends. But anyway.
Right. And toxic's a good word too. But narcissists, they like short engagements. They're very charming, very generous, very amazing, right? Amazing. But once they get in a relationship, they usually tend to last for a long, long time because they're so manipulative
And
and they
controlling.
manipulate you and controlling. And you try to get out, but then they turn it on you and you feel like, oh, I'm wrong. I'm bad for trying to leave this really healthy relationship where this guy is taking care of me and all this stuff. It's so sad that women or men get stuck in these situations for so long, just wasting time, feeling so crappy about themselves. And that's part of my mission is to say, hey, like, so one of my clients yesterday too, I was like, hey, have you ever considered that maybe she's a narcissist? And he's like, looks at me, actually, you're not the first person to say that. But he's like, I don't really know what narcissism is. And so I break it down and they're like, oh yeah, she fits the bill. It's like just a simple mindset shift, right?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest pitfalls, I think you just addressed it, is the gaslighting. Love bombing was the term I was thinking.
Mhm.
Gaslighting, when someone tells you, "Hey, I don't want you to work. I want you to stay at home." Blah blah blah. Okay, so that's kind of playing the long game, right? It's like they put you in a position where then you're not free to escape. It's using money in that way as kind of a currency of love, and so it's very controlling in that regard. So yeah, I mean, those dynamics are so common, and it's beautiful that you're sharing that with your with your clients, because I think people don't quite get the the polarity, the charm
Mhm.
on one end, the control and the manipulation on the other, right? It's really baffling to some people. And
It's
particularly
yeah.
even probably men, right? Because men aren't used to the women being labeled as such, so they're not looking for it, right?
Hmm. Yeah, there are definitely lots of narcissistic women.
Hmm.
I know a few. And it was funny when I first started educating myself about narcissism, I would see these women treat me in a certain way. And then after I opened my eyes, I was like, wow, like that's gaslighting in real life. It's
Hmm.
fascinating to me. And when you become educated, to all the people who are listening, when you become educated, just literally watching YouTube videos, and of course you can't believe everything, but for the most part, people who speak about this type of stuff are not just making shit up, right? So you can watch this stuff and educate yourself, and it's very empowering, right? It's you're constantly you're soaking in new information, you're kind of being enlightened, I guess, and you're educating yourself so that you can become smarter, so that you can spot the red flags, so you prevent getting yourself into sticky situations. And that's part of personal growth, right? Is daily improving, making better decisions than you did yesterday.
100%. I mean, the another thing maybe you can speak to that you might see in your clients is when you talk about narcissistic family systems or alcoholic family systems, you may
Mhm.
see scapegoating, you might see the golden child. And when you see these people present as adults, I mean, I'm not a therapist, but I'm always fascinated by people's siblings. What are they like? I might ask them because they may not be tuned into the fact that maybe they were the golden child. Maybe they were scapegoated. And then how does that manifest in terms of how they deal with life's issues as an adult? So that's probably something you encounter to some degree too with people, but you probably don't talk about it as much, right?
No, we don't talk about it a whole lot, and but birth order plays a huge role in how you grow up and your mindset, right? So I
Mm.
find that very interesting. So did a deep dive in birth order. I'm the youngest, a twin, and the youngest of four siblings. Well, kind of the youngest. So yeah, and it's really interesting seeing the older siblings' perspectives of our childhood and how we were raised.
Hmm.
The younger one, I was like, I had the best childhood ever.
Right.
Up, on land, wide open spaces, riding horses, motorcycles, getting wind in my hair. So, um, yeah, it has a huge difference. But as far as like my clients go, we don't really deep dive into that. But your childhood, I do tell them like your childhood plays a huge role. Oh, for example, yeah, we didn't talk about siblings, but a client yesterday, I talked about why he is acting this way today. What happened when he was in a child that made him feel like he had to earn approval, right? So we do like to go back a little bit just for a minute to figure out, where it started.
And as far as your kids, um, it's you're probably really poised. There are so many parents who are struggling, but they don't have your knowledge and acumen of these dynamics. So I guess maybe what you do is just have a lot of empathy, right? When you're parenting. And you homeschool too?
I did. I homeschooled all three of my kiddos for their whole life up until a year ago.
Mm.
I've been divorced now, the 28th. What's today? The 20, tomorrow it'll be 2 years that
Wow.
I'm officially be divorced, but separated for a total of 4.5 years. So I homeschooled them their whole lives up until a year ago. My two youngest ones now do online homeschooling
Mm.
because I wanted to be a big part of their education. And as a child or like as a young adult, I never imagined I would be a homeschooling mom. I definitely struggled with patience a lot. And that's what a lot of moms or parents tell me is like, I could never homeschool. I don't have the patience. Well, neither did I. But homeschooling will help you become very patient. I still like, even, last night, my 16-year-old, we had a huge misunderstanding and butt heads. And um, so I'm still learning how to have empathy. I'm still learning how to bite my tongue and not be defensive and really learn to do a better job of validating. But the thing that always makes it better is we come back pretty fast and just say, like, I'm so sorry. I should have listened to you. I shouldn't have been defensive. And so we have a very like strong personalities, and it's a hard age, 16, right? A 16-year-old girl. It's a hard age. And
Mm.
she's got divorced parents. So that's why therapy is so important because you have that third perspective. And it's just, yeah, it's really helpful. And so, yes, back to the homeschooling and the
Yeah, no, it's interesting to me. I think maybe as when you're homeschooling kids, a teacher is forced to teach certain things that they might realize don't have a lot of application. Whereas
Mhm.
maybe when you're homeschooling, you have an opportunity to focus in on what's really important. I mean, this is the thing to me is that we don't teach emotional intelligence in school. which is
Hmm.
so much a requisite for being successful in your job, in your family life. Um, if we taught people to be self-aware and look out for certain things, therapy maybe and coaching should really be part of a curriculum, not so much an
Hmm.
adjunct thing, right? So,
Yeah, I agree with you. And I saw one of the questions you asked me was about how we're taught math and grammar and science, right? But we're not taught, and I've thought this too, we're not taught finances in grammar school, right? We're not taught about relationship skills, and we're not taught about parenting. And those are like three of the most important things. Like finances, we're going to deal with our whole life. Parenting, and not everyone becomes a parent, but relationship skills, like those are so important. And yeah, it's just like you said, like we've got to learn it trial by trial and error. And so that's why my kids, that's why I loved homeschooling them so much, is because I got to be home with them. And if there was a disagreement, we would put the math on hold because it was so important for me to teach my kids interpersonal skills and to teach them empathy, like even teach my sons, how to shake hand and look you in the eye, and which is rare these days, and teach my kids really good listening skills, which is eye contact and asking good questions. And we would go out to church or other events, and literally we'd be so intentional about it. I'd say, okay, when you meet your new friend, ask them those three questions we talked about earlier. And so it's all about role play, right? And so at home, when there was like a disagreement or whatever, my kids are all like boy, girl, boy kind of space. So they're all best friends. They're all best friends. It's amazing. But we would stop the math and I would say, okay, let's start over. Like, what's really happening here? You're not just pissed because she took your toy. You feel disrespected, right? And yeah, okay, so let's talk about, because for me, I hate wasting time and I don't want to keep coming back to the same thing over and over again. It's just like how it was built. So I'm like, can we not come back here again? Can we not sign up for the same lesson? Like, let's figure out how to, bypass this next time. And let's go jump the rock. Let's go to the beach. Like, so I loved that part about homeschooling. And honestly, people say, like, how do your kids socialize? We don't live like 100 miles out into the country, right? We are a very active family. We're very athletic, and so they have a lot of friends, and they're constantly doing stuff outside of school, surfing, riding horses, diving, all those type of things. So it's really like just about how you want to live your life. Being afraid your kids are not going to be socialized is not a fear for homeschooling.
well, that brings me to another quick question. I went to a boys' prep school. What do you think of this notion of single sex schools? Because actually, I kind of wish I was homeschooled, but I got a great education from my boys' prep school. And that was before people had much thought of like gender study issues and addressing misogyny and bullying. I mean, they
Mhm.
did teach us to be we did go to school and consider integrity and character as something that we're constantly thinking about. And so I did prep me, and then I went off to college. I'm kind of surprised that I acclimated without having much experience with women in high school, right? Although I had a sister, have a sister.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I say this because you focus on coaching men, and I'd be curious how men who come out of those single sex schools, if today they're, and you may not have clients like that, but I'm just interested in the topic. Here I am
That's actually
rambling on my own podcast. Sorry, go
Uh,
ahead.
No, I love that though because I've never thought about that before. Like men who go to these private schools who don't get to interact, who don't get to learn how to interact with other women aside from maybe going home for holidays if they have siblings and a mom, right?
Right.
And so that's really interesting. I wonder if anyone's done a study on that to see if they come out like fairly normal and well-rounded or if they've got, you know, issues.
Yeah, I mean, I think it runs the
Answer
gamut,
it.
but I can't, in some ways, right? Like exposure to being socialized uh, can't hurt in some ways if you have a parent or teacher who's there to help. But if you don't even get exposure to the opposite sex,
Mhm.
uh, I don't know how I managed, but I somehow did. Yeah, well, thank you. This is great. I'd love to have you back on. You have so much insight in the personal growth. uh, industry and as someone who focuses on how can people find you for your coaching program? And I think you take like 6 clients a month or something. That may have changed, but feel free to share a bit about that.
Okay, so I do like to take on 6 clients a month, but then I also have this live in-person wing woman immersion program, which I only take on 2 clients a month. So after I take my clients through the 6 week program, where we really dive into communication, mindset, dating techniques, all the stuff. It's a lot of fun. After that, if they wanted to fly and come see me, or they wanted to fly me to come see them for 2 nights, Friday and Saturday, I go out with them into the society and I help them even like figure out what they're gonna wear. You make them look really, debonair. And then we go out and I observe firsthand how they're interacting with other women. So I'm the wing woman, right? I'm not like their date. So, and when you are with, and I don't mean to sound vain, but when you're with a tall, attractive woman who's emotionally intelligent, that draws attention in itself, right? So the women see this man with me and they're like, what's his story, right? And so then we start conversations and then I give him live feedback, obviously very subtly. The girls don't know what's really happening, right? Or the women don't know. And so they get to practice, put into effect like all the things that they learned. And it's very productive. It's a lot of fun. And yeah, it's really helpful. So I do that twice a month. And you can find me on all the platforms pretty much. Annalia, I'm sure you'll list it. And then um, I do I do have a website. I'm gonna have to send that to you because it's a new domain, and so I'll have to send that to you. But um, yeah, that's where you can find me.
Yeah, the wing woman concept is fantastic.
Hmm.
You know, for Yeah, I'll have to talk to you about that more because I know a dating app that could benefit from your services, but your advice. Um, well, thank you so much. This was great. Hi there in Hawaii, by the way. Goodness gracious, Hawaii's beautiful. Um, Maloha, right?
Mahalo.
Mahalo.
You said it's aloha, which is hello and love,
Right.
and mahalo is thank you. So you kind of mix the two
I
together.
did. I did. Goodness gracious. I'm not going to add that clip to any social media. But yeah, no, thank you so much.
Welcome. It's a
Um,
pleasure.